Happy Friday, Seattle hockey fans. Fun, fast, forechecking. That's what got us the win over Ryan Donato and the Chicago hockey squad. But it's only 2 games in a row. We're going to need a little bit more. But we're going to talk about what's going well right now and how we can replicate that, especially with LA coming up. And we'll get back to our Firebird Fridays, all that and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. If we are meeting for the first time, welcome. My name is Erica L. Ayala. You can find me on all social media platforms at Black Rosie Media. That's an independent media podcast empowering Black women and other melanated creators in sports media. You can also find some of my work over on CBS Sports, including we should have something on Monday regarding the what the fields will look like for the Winter Classic. If you are a part of our Locked On Kraken insiders, you'll get a little bit of an early taste of some of my conversation with Steve Mayer, who's been on the show before. Anyway, let's get into last night's game. It was a big win for the Seattle Kraken, and, we're going to enjoy the big win. We deserve good things. We deserve to enjoy a really hard-fought good win for our guys at home, because that's not always something that they're doing. But it comes with a little bit of a word of caution. 7-1 win. Let's go by the numbers from our friend of the podcast, the one and only Allison Lucan, who was indeed our broadcaster between the benches. So you love to see that. But Allison Lucan, 7-1 win. Here are some of the things that she highlighted for us in via Sports Logic. But was it a quality start for Joey Dax? Yes, indeed it was. I talked yesterday about entries and denials. We win the entry denial battle 5-on-5, 54% to 34% for the Chicago Blackhawks. Zone exits 86% for the Seattle Kraken to 76% for the why am I blanking for the Blackhawks? Puck battle win, 93%, 7% for the Seattle Kraken. But there was something that Allison said on the broadcast about our fourth line. And I spoke a lot about our fourth line, that they actually had more shots and they produced more shots. Our fourth line produced more shots than Chicago, which is wild. And it speaks to a few different things, including that. And I think Nick Olczyk was alluding to this a little bit post-game. This is a Chicago team that's not expected to be all that good outside of Connor Bedard. I would add our guy Ryan Donato as well. But you have to win these games. And I've been talking about that because the last time we played Chicago, it wasn't a 7-1 game. It was a 4-3 game. And so we're getting back to good habits and showing up on time and with a purpose. In all situations, the home team had 8 high danger chances while allowing just the one created eight chances off the rush, while just allowing 4 for Chicago. And this is another thing that, again, post game, I think it was Nick Olchek talking about it, but talking about Connor Bedard, I believe, had 3 shots, 3 attempts. Just 2 of those even strength. And, I saw someone in the comments saying Matty Beniers is a bust, yada, yada, yada. But what we heard from our post game analysis from Allison Lucan and Nick Olchek is that Matty Beniers and Alex Wenberg were assigned to keep Bedard's production down. This is what Allison writes. The Alex Wenberg line dominated offensively and was one of 2 lines, the other was the Matty Beniers line, that kept Connor Bedard limited to just 2 even strength shots on goal. The third was a power play opportunity. So I think that's huge. And I'm not ready to have the Matty Beniers is a bust conversation. I was eking dangerously close to, do we need to make a coaching change or maybe a front office change if things stay the same? We've seen teams get rid of coaches after 4 losses. Now, again, I think it's all about the compound effect. For me, the Seattle Kraken were getting dangerously close to that compound effect, and hopefully are starting to get, to quote Taylor Swift, it's like one of the one Taylor Swift songs that I know. Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods? Are we in the clear? I don't know, but I like what I'm seeing, and we need these kind of wins. We need to earn all 2 points. We need to get wins at home. We need to get production from our third and fourth line, and that's exactly what we got. Of all skaters in the game, top 5 according to Game Score: Riker Evans, Kyler Yamamoto, we'll talk about him in a little bit, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Vince Dunn. I love this combo. This is a magnificent combo. You're seeing, again, third and fourth line productivity. Vince Dunn showing that he's always in the mix regardless of what's happening. I have nothing but love for number 22. We love you, 22. And Pierre-Edouard Bellemare is just fun. He's just a lot of fun. And that's what I wanted. Fun, fast, and forechecking. That's what we're starting to see from the Seattle Kraken. Now, speaking of fast, Seattle didn't just dictate the pace of play, writes Allison Lucan. They dictated the location. 27-10 is the entire game time spent in the Kraken's offensive zone. This is huge. This is huge. Because I've showed you the heat maps before. And they have not been good. The last time I went off about a heat map was actually the Seattle Kraken playing against Chicago, because I couldn't for the life of me understand how, we were in a situation where we were letting Chicago dominate and have so much space. Holy cannoli. So much space, so much time right in front of our goaltender. But I love this, that Allison from Davy Jones' locker room actually tweeted this. She said she wasn't really going to tweet much, but couldn't help herself when she saw one of my favorites, the one and only heat map. This, my friends, truly is a thing of beauty. This heat map that I'm pulling up for you right now so we can check it out. Just complete night and day from what we usually see from the Seattle Kraken. And we needed it. We needed a game where we put on display what works for us. Okay? What works for the Seattle Kraken? And, I think that finally we're starting to see a little bit of that. Okay, it's taking me back to here. This is not where we want to go. Technologies, bear with me here. I want to get you to the heat map. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Now we got it. Now we're cooking with gas, as they say. But if you can see this, hold on. If you can see this here, let me get this out of the way. Look at all of this time. Goal 1, 2, 3, 4 goals right there. Low slot, crease area. Always told you we're going to favor that left side. We talked about that. You can see another goal. Oh my goodness. Coming from the goal line. You love that. And then up here as well. Just singing on all cylinders, the Seattle Kraken. We're playing well, but it's only 2 games. It's only 2 games. And this is a throwback for those who saw the thumbnail on YouTube. This is a throwback to a movie from the 1990s called Eddie, starring Whoopi Goldberg, in which a massive New York Knickerbockers fan turns into the head coach and gets the team on board. And this is a quote from the movie. It's only 2 wins. And indeed, that's what it is right now, Seattle Kraken fans. We have every right to feel good. We should feel good about it. And we dug a pretty big hole. It's only 2 wins. Dave Haxtell, after the game, was talking a little bit, and he was saying something akin to, hey, we haven't won very much in the last week or so we cannot get too high and mighty. We definitely cannot get complacent. There's still plenty of work to do. And for me, I think there is a balance between enjoying this win. It was a good win, a feel-good win, and knowing that the job isn't done. And I love that we are a team that knows that there is still plenty of work to do. And now it's a matter of if we can get that work done. I actually kind of flipped these 2 segments. So I kind of talked about the fun and forechecking a little bit. We're just mixing it all together. But I do want to get into the fun part. Talked a little bit about the forechecking. We're going to talk about that more coming up next. But I want to talk about the fun that these guys are having, and why Captain Material, Mr. Definitely Not a Bust, Matty Beniers, might be the reason that you have a smile on your face as a Seattle Kraken fan. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked on Kraken. Today's episode of Locked on Kraken is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Now, I've mentioned it a time or two. I actually used Game Time when I was in Seattle. I got to go to an M's game, and I went with a good friend. We always like to sit actually on the visitors' dugout side, and I was able to use the Game Time app, go in, find the game that I wanted to go to. It was a homestand, and take a look at the view from our seats, because they've got those cranes and everything, and so we wanted to make sure everything was good to go, not be too far out, but also not too close up to the concourse. All of those things you can do on the Game Time app. I also love that on Game Time, you can find all kinds of flash deals. You can plan ahead, or like I did, you can wait till you're in Seattle. I'm going to be in Seattle again at the end of the year, so I'm going to be looking at the Game Time app. And one of the things that I love is also the Game Time guarantee. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price, because if you find tickets in the same row, same section for the same event at a lower price, the Game Time guarantee will give you 110% of what you paid right back into your account, so you can use that money once again to find the best deals, the best seats for the best shows on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Head to the Game Time app and use code LOCKEDONNHL, and that will give you $20 off your first purchase. Don't forget, download that Game Time app, and make sure you have a good time out there. Be safe and responsible, though. But get into the action on Game Time. And thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. A reminder that Locked On Kraken is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And the Locked On Podcast Network has launched the first ever 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Head over to Locked On Sports today, where you can find your local experts talking about your favorite teams, plural, all throughout the sports kind of world. We're doing it all. Women's basketball. I was on today's Locked On NHL show doing a women's hockey spotlight. We had the rivalry series yesterday. PWHL has some things coming down the pike as they get ready for the puck drop on January 1. So those are the things you can find on Locked On Sports today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube. Okay, talked a little bit about forechecking. I mean, in as much as the heat map indicates that we're definitely attacking or going north, as you'll hear it said in hockey a lot, downhill in a lot of other sports, just really rapid pace. I mentioned the little nugget that Allison Lucan had in her story talking about pace and time spent in the offensive zone. 27 minutes in the Kraken offensive zone, 7 more minutes than Chicago in this particular game. It just looked good. It felt good. And that's what we needed. Going back to this game, the Seattle Kraken were able to score first. And I think that's part of the fast and forechecking aspect of it. We had Kyler Yamamoto score the first 2 goals in the game, both of those in the first period. And we had some response goals. Now, in season 1, response goals was like a 4-letter word for Seattle Kraken fans. I didn't want to hear anything else about response goals. But we get response goals here a few times. And response goals in the traditional way where you get a goal within 2 minutes of a goal, and you can have a response goal in response to your own goal, but you can also, obviously, the most common way people think of response goals is in response to a goal from the opposition, which Oliver Bjorkstrand did a beautiful job on that front. But then I think there's also the kind of response goal that maybe alludes to some of the physicality that we want to see more from the Seattle Kraken, and that is the third period power play goal by Jared McCann. Now he gets hit up high sticking is the call. Chicago in the box, and he comes, whips that thing, gets a really beautiful goal. Also, I know that Alex Wenberg has gone on the record saying that he wants screens to be calculated in the NHL, and I have to agree. A few things that I want to say about Alex Wenberg. One, I agree with you, Wenny. I want stats on screens. I want to know, where can I get these stats? I'm reaching out to the interweb for those watching on YouTube because I really do want to know. I want to track this a little bit more. Wenberg does a great job, but also the way he communicates. I watched that goal a few times over, and you could tell that he was signaling Jared, and that he wanted Jared to shoot that puck, and he was going to bounce out of the way. I mean, I know that happens in hockey, but I guess it seemed just very blatant and very noticeable for me on that goal. The second thing that I want to say, and I thought about this like a game or two ago, apropos to absolutely nothing on the rundown, but is it normal for guys to have a white hockey stick? Like it's all white. I've seen goalie sticks that have been white. Also, Michaela Grant-Mentis, who will be playing for the PWHL Ottawa, once played with a golden stick. It was actually a Blake Bolden stick that she painted gold. Oh my gosh, swag out of this world. I love that. But I've never seen a skater with a white stick. I kind of like it. It's like a phantom stick that when he's sporting out there, because obviously the ice sheet is light, it's white, and then everyone else has a dark hockey stick, usually using black tape, so it just really stands out. I'm sure there are hockey players that have opinions on this. Since I did not grow up playing hockey, I just think it's kind of cool. And also, it seems like kind of an obvious thing to do. It's literally like a phantom stick. Anyway, drop in the comments your thoughts about Alex Wenberg and his all white, or I don't know, maybe it's like a cream color. I don't know. I can't really tell from TV. But let me know what your thoughts are on that stick. Anyway, that's kind of more the fast part. You know, we're getting there. We're getting response goals. The block shots now. This I find really interesting because block shots, one of those stats that, yikes, you know, it can get a little out of control if the block shots are up there, and they were pretty up there for Chicago. I mean, imagine if they didn't block 20 shots, how many of those shots would be on goal and maybe turn into goals or rebound opportunities for the Seattle Kraken? Shots overall 29-22 in favor of the Seattle Kraken. We did win the faceoff battle. I love that. We were 1 for 2 on our power play. Our penalty kill didn't have to do much, but was perfect on the night. You love to see that. Giveaways. Now, here's something that I'm going to be focusing on a little bit more. 7-4. We had 7 giveaways to 4 by the Chicago Blackhawks. Takeaways 10 for the Blackhawks as opposed to 6 for the Seattle Kraken. And against an opponent like the LA Kings, that might be an interesting stat that we're going to take a look at. But I told you Yamamoto scored his 5th and 6th goal in the first frame. In the second frame, Chicago gets back in it. But Bjorky gets us a goal, his 9th on the season. Cartier chimes in, and then Elle Tolvanen with his 8th goal of the season. So you're seeing it. It's first line, second line, third line, fourth line. Everyone scored. 14 different players, I think, in this game alone. Or was that the other night? I can't remember. I have to do the math. But a lot of people got on the score sheet, and I love this. I absolutely love this. Riker Evans, a 2-assist night. So he keeps climbing up the ranks as well. We're going to get into some Firebird Friday situation stuff, but let's close out this second stanza of our Friday episode hearing Kyler Yamamoto. He's going to talk a little bit about, hey, getting a good win, but also knowing that there's a lot of work to do. And then there was a certain shirt that made rounds on social media. He weighs in on that as well. Here's Kyler Yamamoto after yesterday's win.
What has it meant to you to be able to get your team off to this kind of start, 2-game winning goals in 2 games in a row?
Oh, it's big. Big for the confidence and big for the team. I know we had a tough stretch there, but to be able to get these last 2 wins, it's big for us.
Did Pierre fight you for that goal at all on the stat sheet? It looked like either one of you could have got the tip on it.
I honestly thought I hit it, and then I hit his stick, to be completely honest. But no, he was pretty good and said I don't think he touched it, and then, yeah, we saw it. So.
What can a win like this do to build some confidence in this room after the stretch you guys just went through where you got everybody really contributing all throughout?
Yeah, that was a tough stretch. It's really big for us. We need to keep playing this way and keep having games like this.
What did you notice about how your defense was jumping up into the play and helping you guys create offense tonight?
It's amazing. To have a forward, skating on the wall and, look back and just have a couple D in the picture, it's really big for us.
Kyler, how do things change when you're able to get fourth line contributions, whether it's you or Pierre or Devin?
I think it just gives, the guys energy, up top. We're not scoring every game, so to be able to contribute, I think really helps the team out.
Kyler, do you ever think, why is this game sometimes so incredibly hard, and then other times it's so easy?
Oh, trust me. I'm asking myself the same question. We went through a stretch. Definitely our line went through a stretch where, at least me, I was like, oh boy, here we go. And then, you get a couple like that and feel on top of the world. So it's it's a weird game like that, but hopefully they keep coming to us.
Is it kind of nice to beat Tyler Johnson in his 700th game back in his home state?
Is that 700 for him?
700
Oh my goodness, I gotta go say congrats to him. No, it feels amazing. I mean, they got one on us in Chicago, so to be able to get one at home, it feels good.
How much were you looking for a third one tonight?
I think everyone was on the bench, but it didn't happen, so it's all right. Wanted it, but it's all right.
Any idea what this T-shirt's all about?
I want to say, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I want to say Maddie had something to do with it.
That's what I think. Right. I think Lars did too.
So that is Kyler Yamamoto, among other things. Whoops, talking about the other Washington native who's on the other side of the ice on the losing side of that 7-1 game, hit 700 career games. So that's amazing. Also talking about Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. I honestly thought that it was Bellemar's goal, but Bellemare did score later. So all is well that ends well. But you heard him say, like, oh boy, there was a time where at least he put that on him, that he was kind of thinking, oh man, here we go. Like, this is a tough stretch. So they know that it's been a tough go. But the levity that we see from the Seattle Kraken team, and the Adam Larson bowl cut t-shirts. Some guys were wearing them pregame, and then Yamamoto, Bjorkstrand, and a few other guys wearing it postgame. And it sounds like rookie of the year, that guy on my closet door right there, he was behind that. And it's the smiles. It's getting back to the fun, right? That's what we said. Fun, fast. I maybe added fast, but we did show that we can be a fast team. Fun, fast, and forechecking. That's huge for the Seattle Kraken. And again, it's only 2 games, taking you back to that 1996, probably cult classic movie, Eddie. Highly recommend that you watch it if you have not. It's only 2 games. It's a montage scene. And she's like, all right, 1 game, 2 games. Ooh, now we've got 3 in a row. Like, when does it start feeling real? And for me, the answer for the Seattle Kraken is when we can get as many wins in a row as we had losses. That's like really good. That's super good. That would be amazing. And we've done that before. We've had 8+ games in a row. Are we going to do that this stretch? I honestly don't know. I want us to try and win out this homestand. The next task is LA. That's going to be a big one. I'm going to try and get you a bonus episode tomorrow, and we can talk a little bit more about that, because I do want to get into Firebirds Friday and a big win for the Firebirds as well. I told you in the off season, heading into preseason and training camp, I was super excited about a goaltender by the name of Jack LaFontaine. We're going to hear from him and some of his teammates after an OT win and get a little bit of a taste of what it's like to be a goalie who's been invited to camp and has spent time between the ECHL and the AHL and just never knows exactly when it's going to be his time to go. He gets his first start and a win in Coachella Valley. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now, I gave you the odds for last night's game. I'll have to give you some more again for our game against the Kings. But right now is the time. If you think things are cooling off because we're in the winter season, no. Head over to FanDuel, because new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bets over at FanDuel.com. That's right, $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now's the time to do it. You can get in on the action, the spreads, the over-unders, the money line, the aforementioned money line. There's even a special Bedard odds section. That would have been also good to recap before last night's game, but I wasn't focused on the Bedard odds. I was focused on the Kraken odds, and I think that was a good move. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Once again, that's FanDuel.com /lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of the National Football League. And as always, I want to thank you for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, your host. I did my standing desk option today for those watching on YouTube. And so we're having a good time. Fun, fast forechecking. But now it's time to talk about the 4th F, and that's the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Now, we talked about the Firebirds a little bit more in depth earlier in the season. They were off to a good start. Unfortunately, similarly, as fate would have it, like our NHL team, they had a fall from glory and grace, if you will, and have been struggling to get back on track, especially at home. And big big game yesterday against the Abbotsford Canucks, and they snap a losing streak, a 5-game home losing streak. They were able to snap in overtime. Cameron Hughes got the first goal. Jacob Melanson and Logan Morrison assisted on that one. Ratty for Atu Ratu. I know Ratty is kind of what we say as like the nickname, but Atu Ratu, really great for Abbotsford. And was able to score. I believe he scored twice in this game. But ultimately, it was Andrew Podorowski who would get the overtime winner. And it was a big game. Jack LaFontaine earned his first win as a Firebird. He pushed aside 28 of 31 shots faced, 25 saves for the Canucks goalie. Power play 2 for 10. First of all, 10 penalties. And the Firebirds, in case you didn't know, I think I've talked about this before, but they do live stream their post-game media availability. I'm going to show you a little bit of a cut of that. I've had to do some editing to it just because the sound can be a little wonky. Disco Dan Bilesma did talk post-game. I'm not going to use his comments because his audio was in and out, but he was not pleased with how the game was, how the cadence of the game. He kind of alluded to, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he kind of alluded to not liking how some of the game was officiated. But you can listen to that on YouTube. A needed win here, and you're going to hear from Andrew Podorowski, who we know was just with the Kraken a little while ago. He's going to talk about the crowd and wanting to win at home, which I've talked about for the Kraken. Fun, fast forechecking and win at home, baby. I want us to get this game against the Kings. So I've talked about it before, even with the ECHL team, but there are sometimes parallel paths that our development pipeline is kind of dealing with. And so to snap a 5 home game losing streak, massive for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Right now in the Pacific Division, they are 5th overall, right behind Abbotsford, as a matter of fact. They are a 500 team, 13-7-1, but those losses piled up for them, and in bunches. That's what always makes it a little difficult. Losing 7 games in an entire season, yeah, it's going to happen. But it's when it happens in bunches and other teams aren't losing that are in your catchment area, that's when it makes it a little tough. So anyway, without further ado, let's hear from some of the guys from Coachella Valley about the overtime win against the Abbotsford Canucks.
We have a really good team in the locker room. All the guys care about each other. We always say we got each other's backs out there, and the fans got our backs, so we got to perform, and it's nice to get a win for him tonight. He's a gamer, former teammate with him in Chicago. The first, 5-10 seconds of the game, it's just an unbelievable save, and no way to get thrown right into the fire like that and, get comfortable. So that was a massive save. A game could have changed from that point on, but credit to him. He stuck with it, played great, gave us a chance to win, and credit to him for stepping in.
Yeah, it was a rude awakening. I wasn't really expecting that, but, that's just the type of goalie I am. I just battle, just battle for every inch. And, obviously, I had to answer the bell there. But as far as the rest of the game goes, we really shut it down. I didn't really see any direct shots. Again, their tendencies are a lot low to high and pound it from the point with traffic. But, the boys were blocking it, and I don't think I really saw any direct shots within the slot, which again makes my job so easy. The position I'm in, it's I'm kind of at the mercy of what happens for people above me. So sometimes it's hard to get into a rhythm as far as games. So It took a lot of preparation going into this game, and I just felt like, just as soon as I got into a flow, I just let the script of the game take over and just battle for every save, battle on every shot. And at the end of the day, I wasn't, worried too much on the result, just focusing on the process and giving the boys a chance to win.
So I was gonna play a little bit more from Jack LaFontaine, but speaking on a Firebirds Friday, as I was recording this podcast, the news just came through that the Seattle Kraken have recalled forward Shane Wright from the Coachella Valley Firebirds and have reassigned forward Ty Cartier to Coachella Valley. Now, well, let me read the entire thing and then we can break this down. Additionally, the team has placed forward Jaden Schwartz on the long-term injured reserve list, and it's retroactive from November 28th. Okay. Whew. All right. Firebird Friday. Okay. I mentioned Ty Cartier scored yesterday. I mean, a lot of people got on the score sheet yesterday, but he did have one of the Seattle Kraken goals. It was the fifth goal? The fourth goal. He had the fourth goal, the second goal in the second period. It's his sixth goal on the season. I'm taking a beat here because there's a part of me that's not surprised. There's a part of me that's not surprised. As much as I did defend, and I will continue to defend Matty Beniers, I do think there's a little bit of something missing from that top line. And I think it's fair and likely safe to say that we're not going to change Eberle and Beniers. It's just not likely. So the odd person out there becomes Ty Cartier. Now, what's interesting to me, though, is that Ty Cartier, as you likely know, is a winger for us. And as you also likely know, that means that Shane Wright, is he going to play wing? Like, what's happening here? So I'm going to give you the lines as we had them last night. Left to right, first line, McCann, Beniers, Eberle. Cartier, Wenberg, Tanev, Tolvanen, Gord, Bjorkstrand, Shore, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and Kyler Yamamoto. So, I mean, are we thinking of switching Matty Beniers from center? I don't know that makes a lot of sense to have Shane Wright centering the top line. Does Yanni Gord come and maybe switch up to the, I guess maybe the second line now, fill in Cartier's spot, and then does Shane Wright take Yanni Gord's position on that third line as a center? I'd be okay with that, except I really like how Tolvanen, Gord, and Bjorkstrand are playing together. I really do. So then how is this going to work? I'm very curious to see if we get to see Shane Wright in action. I don't think they're bringing him up to have him sit on the bench. The other players that we have who have been scratches, Jacob Megna, Justin Schultz, and Marian, I always say his name wrong, Studnik. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what this means. I as I said, it's only 2 wins. So there's a part of me that's very uncomfortable with this, and a part of me that knows after losing 8 straight, 2 wins in a row is not enough for a complete, without thinking, thumbs up and stamp of approval. If the Seattle Kraken end up losing more games than they win in the next handful of games, and I don't think, just for clarification, that this will necessarily have anything to do with Shane Wright coming up and playing, I certainly hope not, for his sake, for our sake. But, I do think there's some tinkering that the team still needs to do. Ty Cartier, I think it's tough. I think this is a tough change, but maybe it'll be a good one. I can't say that Ty Cartier has been the greatest for us at all times. I can definitely see where the team, the organization wants more from him. I can absolutely see that. And again, the losses have been piling up. So if there's just something right now that he's not giving, is it tough? I think it's tough. I think it's tough. There's good vibes. He just scored. But I'm sure that this wasn't a decision that was made in a vacuum. Let's talk a little bit about Shane Wright. In 18 games for the Coachella Valley Firebirds this season, he's got 16 points. That breaks down as 9 goals, 7 assists. Now, let's see what else we've got here. I'm trying to pull up the full stats. The stats are always a little crazy. Some leagues are great with stats, others not so much. And the NHL, they just changed their website and I'm not feeling it. Anyway, I've talked about that enough in the past. Anyway, this will be interesting. I feel like we're definitely going to have a show tomorrow with this news. It came out, it must have come out just as I started recording because I stepped away with the video and then I saw this. We're going to have another show tomorrow because I'm already over time. And another thing that we have to talk about kind of relates to our Coachella Valley Firebird Fridays vibe is Chris Drieger. There have been a few things that have come out, including that Driegs is, I guess, preparing a Winter Classic setup. And we know that Grubauer week to week, but I believe it was on the 32 Thoughts podcast. I haven't listened to it, but I saw some reporting saying that the Seattle Kraken might be preparing for him to be out a little bit longer. So that's why I wanted to talk about Jack LaFontaine. On Monday, we'll talk about Kansas City. They are going to be in Tulsa next week, I believe, and we'll play over the weekend. So I'm going to have to come back. We're going to have a Saturday show because there's just a lot going down. And again, I want us to complete the sweep of the back end of our homestand. So tomorrow's a big game. I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of feels. I want fun. I want fast. I want forechecking. And I do think that I'm seeing a youth movement here. It's happened a little bit differently than I thought. And based on some injuries that seem to be a little bit longer than we want them to be, but we got to talk about it. So I will catch you on a weekend special. I'll wake up on a Saturday. We'll get it done. We're going to have a good time. This show is already a little longer than it probably should be. But I mean, hey, I wanted to talk about Jack LaFontaine because I do think the goaltending pipeline is just going to be something that we're going to continually talk about on Locked On Kraken. I just think it's time. We have to have a real conversation about Philip Grubauer, especially with his injury. Will Chris Drieger get a chance to see some NHL action? I think it's okay for him to see some action, but we have to have kind of parameters and expectations because I also think Joey Decord has had 2 solid games. Now, what we'll see against LA, oh gosh, I laughed out loud when JT Brown on the broadcast said, yeah, these 2 teams usually have pretty close games against each other. And I'm thinking 17 goals. No. We don't want that again. But this is a good LA Kings team. We got a little bit of a taste. If you watched the broadcast last night, they recapped a little bit of what LA is doing and why they are a perennial top 3 team in the Pacific Division. And we have to win divisional games. So I know. I'm going off. We've got so much to talk about. The Shane Wright news comes in, kind of took away the thunder, I think, a little bit of what I wanted to do with Jack LaFontaine. But that's Kraken hockey. That's Kraken news. That's sports, baby. You know, we go with the flow. So tomorrow, let's do a special game day episode. If you are a part of our Locked On Kraken Insiders, take or be on the lookout for something special regarding my conversation about the Winter Classic preparation. If you're not a part of that, text 918-731-3154 from your mobile device. Again, that's 918-731-3154. You can get started with a 14-day free trial. After that, it's less than $5 a month. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. Hold fast. Stay true. Loud and proud. We say united. Let's go Kraken. Let's go Firebirds. And let's go KC Mavericks. I will catch you on the next episode of this here podcast, the Locked On Kraken podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Peace out, everybody.